All right, so what we've done is so far, we have talked about two different forms that you can graph something when it's in linear. Okay, the first thing we talked about was slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form looked like this. And by now it should not take me but maybe 30 seconds to graph something in slope-intercept. It should not be a big deal. So I see that my intercept is up, so I'm going to kind of focus like that. 1, 2. There's my y-intercept. That's why I plotted that point that I just did. Then I go, here's my slope, which means I go up 1, over 2, and I would normally draw my line, but I'm going to pause for a second because I need to look at that since it's an inequality. Since it's not going to be one of the ones that's equal to, what kind of line am I going to draw? A dashed. By the way, also 1/2 can be written as what? -1 over -2, which means I can go down 1 and then back 2. And then we said this is going to be a dashed line because it's not equal to. Final thing I'm going to do is plug in a 0, 0 to check to see if 0, 0 is on the good side or if it's on the bad side. So when I plug in 0 for that y, it comes that. 0, hopefully you can plug this in without having to do too much work. 0 times 1/2 is 0. Then I would do 0 plus 2 is 2. Is 2 greater than 0, or 0 greater than 2? That means that 0, 0 is on the bad side, so I would shade the opposite side. That's it. We also did standard form. And we said, so slope-intercept form was good for a slope and intercept. We did standard form. What was standard form good for? What 2 points do I get every single time? I will make this a 20. So how do I get the x-intercept? If I want the x-intercept, what can I guarantee is going to happen? So if I have 0, that means I'm going to plug in 0 for that. That's going away then, right? And then basically I'm saying 5 times what is 20? So there's my x-intercept. Did that make sense? Questions on that? Okay, then what's my next order pair? What am I going to guarantee going to happen? 4, 0 for my x, which means this is going to go away, which means this is 10. So 1, 2, 3, whoa, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What kind of line am I going to connect them with? Then I pick 0, 0. Is it true or is it false? 0 times 5 is 0. 0 times 2 is 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. Is 0 greater than or less than 20? Yes, it is. So it's this side. Do we understand how to graph both in standard and in slope-intercept? Any questions on that? All right, so for our last form today, just want to show you where it came from. You don't have to write notes right now. You can just kind of watch. What is my slope formula? That's slope-intercept, so don't get them confused. This is slope-intercept. This is not the slope formula. Okay, slope-intercept different. Yes? Yeah, if you remember what I did, I told you I don't care about those subscripts. Y minus y over x minus x, but we talked about how whatever goes first in the y, that x that's with it has to go first in it. Remember us doing that? That's called the slope formula. Different than slope-intercept form, right? Totally different things. So what if I wanted to get rid of this x minus x? I could multiply by x minus x. I could multiply by x minus x, and when you did that, it looks a little different, which it would say y equals, or y minus y equals m times x minus x. This is point slope formula. Point slope formula came from just changing the slope formula around a little bit. That's where it was kind of created from. They just rewrote the slope formula in a different way and called it point slope. Now the tough thing, there's two things. Please listen to this. Two things that are tough about it. Whatever number is here, the point for it is going to be the opposite of it. You'll see what I mean in just a minute. Whatever here, it's going to be the opposite of it for my point. The other thing that's tricky is what number comes first when I look at this equation. Normally, y comes first. When I write my x and y, what comes first? Do you see where there could be an issue? What do you think kids do on accident? They put the y in the x spot on accident. So here's what I mean. If I said y plus 1 equals 1/2 x minus 3, what is my point? Because remember, point slope gives me a point and gives me a slope. It's very similar. Slope-intercept form gives you a point and a slope. The difference is it gives you the y-intercept every single time. This just gives you some random point, whatever point they want you to use. Do you follow me? So what would be my point for this one? It would be 3, -1. Beautiful. Opposite of what I see here goes right there, 3. Opposite of what I see here goes right there. Just be careful, don't switch the x and y, and make sure you put the opposites. Does that make sense? Questions on that? Now how do I graph it? 1, 2, 3, -1. Put a point. Then up 1, over 2, boom, I've got my graph. What's your question? Standard form. Yep. Because the original form is supposed to be y minus y. And right here it says y plus 1, right? Well, how could I rewrite that if I wanted to? And this is actually going, we never really go this way, but how can you rewrite a positive using a subtraction sign? Y minus a -1. Do you see how that's the same thing as a plus? But right here, now do you see how it's in the y minus y formula? And that what's in the y spot? A -1. Whereas this one says x minus x, this already has the negative being there, so the x is just the 3. So instead of thinking of it like that, I just tell you, just do the opposite for both of them. It's easier, but that's why. So today, what you're going to do, actually, let me do this. Let's see if we understand this. Give me the equation for that line. Come on. Give me the equation of that line in point slope form. Well, first off, what would point slope form be? I always start off with just the generic. What would the point slope form be? Y minus y equals m x minus x. Yes? So what do I first need? What do you want to fill in first? I don't need 2 points.
What's it called again so I can write it down? Point slope?
Point slope, yep.
All right, thanks.
Are you trying to put this order pair in? So what is this order pair? So you would go y minus 3 equals x minus 2. All I did is I took the point and I plugged the y into the y part, the x into the x part. Yes? You only need one. Remember, it's point slope. It's only 1 point. It depends. Am I using this formula to try to find the slope? Then I'd plug in 2 of them. If I'm just trying to give the formula right here, I can actually count the slope, can't I? Up 2 over 1. So 2 over 1 is just a 2 slope. There's the equation for that line. M stands for slope. How did I find the slope? Rise up 2 over 1. 2 over 1. I saw it on your face. You're like, what in the world? Do we understand point slope pretty well? Go backwards and forwards, how to make the graph, how to make the equation from the graph. You should be able to do both those. So here's, the next thing that you would do with that is so first I'm going to recognize that it's in what form, and that helps me figure out how I'm going to attack it. So in point slope, the point is right here. The opposite of that is the x, so that's 4. The opposite of that is -1, that's the y. Does everybody understand why I got that ordered pair? Annalise, you with me? Sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, -1. Boom. Then I use my slope, which is a -2/3. How can I write that? Say it louder. Nope. How do I write that as a fraction? -2 over. No. What happens if I have a -2 over a -3? What happens with a negative and negative, ladies and gentlemen? That number is a negative. That number is a positive. That is not the way I do this. How can I write it as a fraction? You could write it as 2 over -3. That's one way. What's the other way? -2 over +3. Both of these are the way that I could write that. You cannot write it as -2 over -3 because that changes to a positive. We're trying to show all those ways. So I could go up to 1, 2 over 1, 2, 3. So it'd be right there. Or I could go down to 1, 2 and back 1, 2, 3. And then I would draw what kind of line with this one? Why am I drawing that? Because it's not equal. What's the last thing I need to do for this? It's just like every other one that we've done before. What are we going to do? Why can I plug in 0, 0 for this one? So if it did touch it, I'd have to pick a different order pair. Everybody understands that, right? If you plug in 0, hopefully you can start doing this in your brain. 0 plus 1 is, so I got 1 on this side. Is that greater than, and this is a question, I plug in 0. What's 0 minus 4? Careful, what's 0 minus 4? -4. So then I would have -2/3 times -4. Notice what I did. I set myself up for success. I made the 4 a 4 over 1 because when you multiply fractions, top times top, bottom times bottom, yes? What's a negative times a negative kick to? An 8 over 3, yes? Which is really 2 2/3. Do you guys understand how I did that? 2 2/3. I would actually rather you leave it as 8/3, but for this, I want to compare it to 1. And obviously I know that 1 is not, this is false. 1 is not greater than 2 2/3. So that means 0, 0 is on the what side? False side, so I would shade the opposite side. Everything that I've done right now has been algebra 1. There has not been one thing that I've done that's been algebra 2 today. Should have come in knowing how to graph slope-intercept, standard form, and point slope. And here's the reason why. When we get to algebra 2, I'm going to ask you, and you're going to try this on your own. You're going to go and graph this. That's a different one. This is supposed to be a y. Yep. All I want you to do is first graph the first equation. Do not shade it. Do not shade it. Just graph the line or dotted line, whatever one it is. You should be about done. It shouldn't take you much longer than that. You're just graphing the top one. So when you graph the top one, and I may, you know what? I'm going to do this on another one. Yeah, you can. It was 3x plus 1, right? So it should be, the plus 1 tells me that that's the y-intercept. The 3x says it's 3 over 1, which means I go up 3 to the right 1. Or what else could I do? What's the same thing as 3 over 1? Negative 3 over negative 1, which means I go down 1, 2, 3, and back 1. And it wasn't equal to, correct? So I'm going to do a Did anyone need help on that part so far? Now, the reason I did not ask you to shade it is because how many graphs are we going to be putting on the same coordinate plane? And if you just start shading everywhere, you're going to have shade on top of shade on top of shade. It gets pretty annoying. So what I do is I'm going to go back to that page and I draw arrows for which way. And so I look at this and I go, okay, I plug in 0. Is that greater than? I plug a 0 in for here. 0 times 3 is 0, plus 1 is 1. Is 0 greater than 1? No. So 0, 0 is the wrong side. So I would put arrows going up. Does that make sense so far? Go ahead and graph the second part, which is in what form? Go ahead and graph the point slope again. Do not shade it until after. So don't shade it. You can do the arrows. Go ahead and try the second and third one all together right now. All right, so here we go. If I was going to do the point slope form, first what I would do is grab my point. Good, -3, +2. And my slope is 1/2. -3. What was it, 2? And then my slope was what? So up 1 over 2, up, so that's up 1 over 2, so like that. And it wasn't equal to, right? It was equal to. So it's a solid line. How did I do so far? Yes? Question? Do you understand how I got that? So then right here, I'm going to test, does 0, 0 work? If I plug 0 in here, 0 minus 2 is -2. And I'm questioning, if I put a 0 in here, that's 3. 3 times 1/2 is 3.5. Is 2 less than 3.5? Hello? Is 2 less than 3.5? Yes, it is. And so this is the good side, the down. So far, where is the connection happening? Not in the top. It's in this area. Did anyone get that so far? Did anyone see where they made their mistake at least? Okay. Finally, I'm going to graph the last section, which says this is points, or this is standard form, so I'm going to grab my x and y intercepts. I know I'm going to make x 0 one time, and I'm going to make y 0 one time, see what happens. When I make x 0, this is gone. What times 4 gets me to 24? 6. When this is 0, yep, so 6 and 8. So those are my 2, 0, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and it's going to go like that. So really the third graph is not doing much, is it? Do you follow me on that? Yes or no? What happens if it's below the line? The part that's going to be shaded is in between here. Yes? What happens if it's above the line? No? No solution, because I'm looking for an area that all 3 graphs would work. If it has to be above this, but in between these 2, there's never going to be a section that all 3 of them match up with. There is an answer that could be no solution. So do you follow what I said there? Oh crap. Well, let's check it. If I put 0 in, this 0 times 3 turns to 0. If I put a 0 in, it turns to 0. 0 plus 0, 0. Is 0 greater than 24? No, it is not, which is exactly right. That means that this thing is going to be going up, and since none of those match up together, my answer is no solution. Can I explain a couple more things before? Okay. Now, what's normally going to happen is you might get, just watch, you don't have to take this, just watch. You might get, for homework tonight, you might get one that goes here, you might get one that goes here, and you might get another one that goes here, and it's in between here, here, below this one, above this one, and so your answer would be anything in between here. Does that make sense? What if I got something like this? One here and it has to be below it. One here and it has to be below it. And one here and it has to be, we'll call it above it, just because I have it. It would be this section over here. Because it has to be above this line, it has to be below this line, and it has to be below this line. What is this line? Since this line right here is very like parallel to this one right here, and since it's both below it, is this really doing any restricting? No. Do you see what I mean by that? Sometimes one of your graphs might not be really restricting anything, but it's still only this area over here. Do you follow me with what can happen? Last thing, and then you can do it. And I got a couple for you guys to try. Please, I don't want these to mess us up anymore. Here's how I want to teach you. I want to teach you how to graph this. X equals 4. Just do it like this. If I said, where does X equal 4? Hopefully you would go like this. Or if I said the ordered pair 4, 3, doesn't that mean X equals 4? And doesn't this mean that Y equals 3? Well, what you guys are doing, and you don't know it, is you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're like drawing an imaginary line in your head like that. And then you're going 1, 2, 3 on the Y, and you're drawing a line like that. And that point is the spot where both those meet, correct? So what would be just the graph of X equals 4? Just the line. Do you follow what I mean by that? It wouldn't on this one. Why not? What did I give you in this one? No. What's the difference from this question to? So when I give you this one, it's equal to, it's only the line. Just like when I say Y equals 1/2 whatever, it's just the line. When I say Y is greater than, that's when I have the shaded added on, right? Same thing with this. If it's just equal to, it's just a line. If it's X is greater than it, then I would have the shading because it would be anything over here. What? No, I don't think so. Not that I know of. So if I ask you to graph Y equals -3, what you should do now, how I do it, is I go, okay, on my Y, I'm going to go to -3. That would be like me going 1, 2, 3. But when I get here, I'm going to draw that full line. So if I was doing Y is less than -3, then I would draw this line. It would be a what? It'd be a dashed line. Does everybody understand that? Because it's not equal to, and since it's less than, it'd be all the stuff down here. If it was greater than, it'd be above. By the way, why don't I write things like this? How come I don't just do this? Yeah. This is called graph paper, right? I can't see the origin anymore. So what we do is we go, hey, we're going to draw the origin full, and then these little tick marks represent that. But now I can see the difference between like X equaling 1 versus the X equals 0, because the X equals 0 and the Y equals 0, the origin is really important. Do you get what I just said there? Okay, so I'm going to give you one to try on your own. And let's see. What you can do. Probably. What form is it in? What does standard form give you? Plug in 0 for x. That's what we talked about, x and y intercept. They're going to be two different order pairs. Oh yeah. So I'd attack the first part. It said it had to be greater than, actually, had to be greater than 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. So I'm going to draw that line. Was it equal to or no? It was equal to? And I know it has to be above it. The next equation was, that I think is the easiest, is x plus y had to be less than or greater than? Less than or equal to 20. So if I put a 0 in for x, all right, I'm going to get my x-intercept. I plug a 0 in for x. I get 20 out for y. If I plug a 0 in for y, I get a 20 out for x. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And it's a solid line. And then I try 0, 0. I plug in 0. I get 0 plus 0 is 0. Is 0 less than 20? It is, so it's down below. So far, it's in this area over here. Does that make sense? Yes or no? Then finally, the last one was what? 20x plus 10y greater than or equal to 200. All right, so for this one, again, I'm going to plug in 0 in for x. The 20x goes away. 10 times what is 200? 20. Then I'm going to plug a 0 in for y. This goes away. 10. So I have 20 right here, same intercept, and then but this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It goes to right here, and it's a solid line again. And if I try 0, 0, when I put a 0, 0 into C, okay, so what's the difference between when I put in a 0 for x, what am I finding? Because I want to make sure you guys are getting this. This is the y-intercept, yes? When I plug a 0 in for just x, I'm finding or for y, I'm finding the x-intercept, yes? When I plug in 0, 0, that's the origin. Do you see how it's different than those two up above that I just did? Because up above, I just did 0 for one of them, and then I solved for the other. So for this one, the y was 20. For this one, the x was 10. Right? When I plug in 0, 0, I'm plugging in both of them. 0, 0. This turns into 0 is greater than 200. Is that true? So that means that it's the above this line. And that means that it's any area in this. It won't always make a triangle. There can be different shapes, but so far it's been kind of making that. Good? All right, that's it.